Chapter 11, Steps to Recovery. Many men achieve balance in their lives. They meet their needs for companionship and intimacy in healthy relationships with their partners, family, and friends. They also find satisfaction in doing things on their own. They have rewarding work interests and keep them busy in their spare time. They look to friends and family as partners on the journey of life, but in a personal crisis, they can care for themselves without necessarily wanting and needing solace from others. In contrast, some men try to get other people to meet their needs. They have trouble creating security and happiness in their own lives. They don't know how to make themselves feel emotionally safe, comfortable, and at ease. They believe, sometimes unconsciously, that others, particularly their partners, are responsible for doing the work of propping them up. Some of these men want to be the center of attention. Some want to be served and pampered. Others want constant reassurance. When their wives or girlfriends don't meet their expectations, these men resort to control and abuse by demanding, threatening, and manipulating their partners to ease their core fears and make them feel better about themselves. After a while, their demands become habitual, and these men derive a sense of well-being from controlling their partners. Control becomes a way of life. Addiction. Here is a description of a man who uses power over others to get his needs met. He is an actor who wants to run the whole show. He is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, scenery, the rest of the players his own way. If his arrangements would always stay put, if people would only do as he wished, the show would be great. What usually happens? The show doesn't come off very well. He begins to think life doesn't treat him right. He decides to exert himself more. Still, the play does not suit him. Admitting that he may somewhat be at fault, he is sure that other people are more to blame. He becomes angry, indignant, and self-pitying. What you have read here was not intended as a description of a controlling man, but Bill W.'s portrayal of an alcoholic from the big book Alcoholics Anonymous. The founder of AA is describing an addict, and even if you don't drink or use drugs, you probably fit his description quite closely. As someone who relies heavily on control tactics to get what you want, you run the risk of being addicted to control and abuse. There have been times in your relationship when you've thought, and may still think, that if your partner would only do as you wished, the show would be great. Like other addictions, whether alcohol, drugs, sex, or gambling, your experience controlling your partner offers quick and immediate benefits. Your problems appear to go away and you feel on top of the world. When you lord it over her, life seems to get better instantaneously. You get your way, you feel powerful, you avoid doing what you don't want to do. Your partner does more of what you want and less of what you don't want. You create bonds with other men, especially your sons, at the expense of women. You win arguments. You avoid uncomfortable feelings such as anxiety and shame. You shut down negative feedback. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? The truth, your control tactics make your life, not to mention hers, worse, much worse. Suppose you tell your partner that she will stay home because you're afraid that if she goes out, she'll meet someone else. If you dictate her coming and going, she's in fact that much more likely to leave you. No one wants to be trapped in her own home. But like an addict, you deny, or refuse to see the truth. You may be consciously aware that you're afraid of competition from other men, but you probably don't know how the core fear of abandonment encourages you to control. All you know is that you want your own way, and you'll do whatever it takes to make her stay home. If you've been controlling long enough and hard enough, your addiction takes over. The addictive pattern. Life for the family of an addict revolves around his addictive behavior. At home, the partner and kids of an alcoholic spend a lot of time wondering and worrying. How am I going to please him? How can I avoid his anger and punishment? Will he embarrass me again? In the same way, life at your house centers on your controlling behavior. Your partner is often afraid and angry about what you have done or may do. Surprisingly, afraid and angry is as your partner is, she will slowly build an immunity to your abuse and control. As a result, you step up the level of your abuse to maintain the control you want. The addictive process is inherently progressive. Just like the alcoholic who needs to drink greater quantities to find the high he so desperately seeks, you will be drawn to use stronger and more frequent abuse tactics to get your partner to comply. Perhaps you used to be able to get her to stay home simply by yelling at her. Over time, you supplement the yelling with intimidating gestures. You jump up and move toward her quickly, crowding her until she has to back up. You block her access to the door. You take her car keys away. One day, you hit her to prevent her from leaving. Addiction, like control, provides addicts with a false sense of power, security, and love. For example, drinking can seem like a great idea when an alcoholic leaves work feeling angry about something his boss said. He may feel better for a short time. He'll prop up his self-esteem by talking about what a scumbag his boss really is, and he'll enjoy the support of others in the bar. But the hangover the next morning, or the remorse for saying something that hurt a friend, or getting into a pushing match with somebody he didn't even know, will overshadow the moments of relief he felt the night before. Worse, he may not even remember what he did. Just as getting drunk may seem like a good idea at the time, you may intimidate your partner into participating in a sexual activity that makes her uncomfortable. At first, this seems like a reasonable way to get your needs met, but there's a major problem. Addictive behavior always results in getting the opposite of what you really want. Just like as the alcoholic doesn't improve his relationships with his boss by going out and drinking, you won't encourage your partner to have sex with you voluntarily. She will be less likely to want any form of intimacy, and the sexual abuse will only push her farther away from wanting to be with you or to please you. Finally, addicts commonly use the cover-up tactics of denial, blame, minimization, and justification that form part of the circle of domestic abuse. See Chapter 5. Just as the addict will try to deflect attention from his addiction and the damage it causes, the controlling man tries to conceal the seriousness of his abuse from himself and others. Well, I had a couple of beers, the alcoholic will say, when in fact he drank a 12-pack. I don't drink more than anybody else, the controlling man says. Everybody has arguments. When he yelled at his partner for an hour, he tells his neighbor, I'd never hit a woman after he has pushed his partner hard enough that she scraped her leg when she fell down. Even though your partner is less likely to do what you want when you abuse her, as an addict, you get what you want often enough to continue the behavior. You pull the lever on the slot machine one more time, thinking that this time the coins of power and control will fall into your waiting hand. Recovering. Addicts are never cured. AA members say that they are in recovery because they recognize and accept that relapse is just around the corner. One drink is all it takes. It would be wonderful to simply utter a few magic words and have something bad stop and never happen again. We all know that's not the way the world works, and many of us know from painful experience how difficult it can be to stop drinking or using drugs or gambling. Since magic won't work, you need to stage a carefully considered full-scale attack, mounting all the instruments of offense at your command. AA offers one program of recovery and relapse prevention that has been successful for millions of people. Some of its steps include acknowledging you have a problem and asking for help, clearly identifying the harm done to others and the costs in their lives, attending AA regularly, getting a sponsor, developing a deeper spiritual life, developing insight into your problem and how it affects you as well as others, finding new and positive ways to use your time, avoiding people who use alcohol and places they frequent, developing a relapse prevention plan. We've adapted these steps in the section that follows, relapse prevention, to help you loosen the grip that control has on your behavior. Take Stan's behavior on his birthday. He is separated from his wife, Erica. Usually he picks up kids on Wednesdays. Since it is his birthday, he decides not to pick up the kids as planned, but to wait and see if Erica will call him, remember his birthday, and thus give him confirmation that she still thinks about and cares for him. Wanting a happy birthday doesn't seem like much of an offense, does it? But Stan has slipped into controlling behavior, not picking up the kids to provoke a response from Erica to get what he wants. In fact, he is willing to create disappointment and worry in the whole family and sacrifice his child's trust that Dad will show up on time. Although recovering from the need to control your partner has many similarities to remembering or recovering from addictions to alcohol, gambling, or drugs, there are a few significant differences. First, if the recovering alcoholic or drug addict begins using again, his relapse should be brilliantly clear to him. Although relapse begins long before the first drink or hit or placed bet, there is clearly a line of demarcation between use and non-use. But relapsing into abuse and control is not so clear-cut. Joe is attending a domestic violence treatment group, and over the course of the 26 weeks, he has committed himself to avoiding abusive and controlling behavior. A few weeks out, he believes his wife paid too much for a new coffee maker, and he criticizes her for not comparison shopping. A week later, she tells their son he can go camping with neighbors without consulting Joe, and Joe angrily and loudly tells her she should have checked with him first. A month later, he pushes her back down on the couch when she says she wants to leave. At what point does Joe cross the line into abuse? What constitutes a relapse? If you've been controlling and abusive, you face a stiff challenge. You need to watch yourself and your behavior with the vigilance of a sentry looking out for enemy patrols. All addictions are sneaky, and they'll trick you into relapse when you're not paying attention. But domestic abuse is particularly devious because there's no clear mark that says you're abusive or not. Second, there are treatment plans and support groups for different kinds of addicts. Alcoholics Anonymous and Gamblers Anonymous are well known organizations where the drinker or gambler can find allies in his struggle against addiction. As a controlling man, however, you're pretty much on your own because there are few identified support groups. Court mandated batterer intervention programs are available in many states, but they rarely offer treatment plans that will help their client stay clean from control. In Chapter 13, we offer you some suggestions on how and where to go for help. In the meantime, we urge you to develop your own relapse prevention plan. Relapse prevention. If you were picked up for drunk driving a couple of times, whether in Nome, Alaska, or Key West, Florida, you'd be required to attend a substance abuse group. In that group, you'd develop a relapse prevention plan, a personalized program to help you avoid drinking again. Relapse into controlling and abusive behavior is an ever-present possibility in that small moment when you are not on guard. Your goal is to develop a plan that helps you identify, address, and manage your temptation to control or abuse your partner. We hope you take this problem with the guts and wisdom of those who have broken free of other addictions. The following relapse prevention program is similar to the 12-step model of AA. The plan starts with general, large life changes and ends with small, specific emergency tactics to avoid relapse. Think about each item in the program and ask yourself these two questions for each one. Will doing the activity described in the item help me in my war to wean myself from my controlling behavior? Am I willing to commit myself to doing it? If you can honestly answer yes to both questions, then check the suggested action and make plans to implement it. For example, a check beside see a therapist would require that you begin to compile a list of therapists and their qualifications, choose a therapist, and make an appointment with him. This relapse prevention plan is not intended to stand alone. We hope it will give you new ideas to think about and new ways to model your behavior. We encourage you to consider all these possibilities and choose the ones that you feel comfortable starting with. To decrease the likelihood of violence and ensure that you make the best plan, we suggest that you share this plan and your ideas about it with a therapist experienced in working with domestic abuse. Acknowledgement of how controlling behavior has harmed me and others. Write a letter to myself and my partner admitting my behavior. This letter is primarily for you. You will need to decide if giving it to her is the right thing to do. Attend a domestic abuse treatment group and explain ways I've been controlling and abusive without minimization, justification, denial, and blame. Confess to a mentor, an older person you trust. Life change and replacement activities for controlling behavior. Find ways of satisfying my needs so I don't demand too much of my partner. Make new friends, find new interests, learn to enjoy being alone. Make requests with love, respect, and reason rather than making demands with threats and intimidations. Work with my partner to schedule and hold family meetings that emphasize sharing opinions, negotiation, and compromise. Put the wants and needs of my partner and children ahead of my own. See a therapist to explore personal issues and my need to control and abuse. Create plans to deal with these needs and issues. Observe what makes my family happy and secure, and readjust my behavior based on what I learn. Socialize with people who have positive attitudes, who are working on their personal growth, and are respectful to women. Develop relationships with men who are open to discussing feelings and life issues. Self awareness. Be aware of my thoughts and make a daily list, write it down, of times I engage in positive thinking habits and times I use distorted or negative thinking. Make a log of minimizing, denying, blaming, and self justifying thoughts with the goal of decreasing my use of cover up tactics and consequent abusive behavior. Observe myself and be more aware of trigger situations and how I react to them. Keep track of my abusive and controlling behaviors, see Chapter 5, and check myself for relapse into destructive behaviors. Monitor my emotional well being and mood. Am I relaxed, angry, depressed, loving? Personal and spiritual growth. Keep a gratitude journal to avoid feeling cheated by the world and my partner in particular. For at least 1 month, write a minimum of 5 daily gratitude entries. Examples: I am grateful for the good conversation I had with my son, getting the car fixed for less than I expected, being able to take a nice walk with my partner to Dairy Whip, that the Red Sox beat the Yankees, that my boss complimented me today. Initiate or enhance my participation in spiritual or religious community. Take time out for walks, meditation, and self-affirmation. Engage in physical exercise at least 4 times per week. Practice acceptance of many things in life I cannot control. Practice recognizing feelings. Put a yellow sticky note on the dashboard or computer to remind yourself to do a feelings check. Positive behaviors. Listen to my partner. Empathize with her worries and concerns. Identify what makes my partner feel respected and cared about and engage in those activities. Choose to do what she wants to do and what is important to her. Volunteer. Give something of yourself at a local soup kitchen or your child's school. Risk reduction. Manage my feelings so I don't project my fear, hurt, or shame onto my partner. Find and join a support group. If there isn't one where I live, I can start one after completing a domestic abuse treatment group. Monitor myself for times and situations when I am at increased risk. For example, when I'm tired or hungry. Avoid people or situations that lead me to develop negative attitudes. If I am a substance abuser or have other addictions, develop separate relapse plan for these addictions. Stay away from friends and places where violence is celebrated or encouraged. Emergency plan. Last-minute tactics to avoid controlling or abusive behavior. Take a timeout. Follow the rules outlined in Chapter 2. Develop a list of reliable friends to call and don't hesitate to call one of them. Carry pictures of my partner and or my children and commit myself to look at them to help me remember my priorities when I am on the verge of destructive behavior that could harm my family. think about consequences, especially for my partner, but also for myself. Affirm myself. I can be a good man. I don't need to be abusive. I am a better man than that. AA meetings take place at all times of the day and night, but the most common meeting time is 8 o'clock in the evening. The content of an AA meeting is up to the group itself, but at 8:02, no matter where you live, there are hundreds of thousands of people at meetings reciting the Serenity Prayer because it helps them keep their priorities straight. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. If you're controlling and abusive, this is your prayer too. You can't change her, but you can have the courage and conviction to change yourself. You have the courage to end your abuse.